Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ladies Power Lunch. We're switching it up a little bit today, and we're actually having our coffee break later in the day. And so we're going to be talking about money with my dear friend Deborah. And we have quite a few people who have found this topic to be interesting and who have joined us over here on the Zoom. So I just want to give everybody an opportunity to introduce herself. Would you like to go ahead and start, Marianne? Just very briefly, who are you? What do you do?
I'm Marianne Pack. I have mariannepack.com, and I am a spiritual guide, and I also am creating a coaching concierge membership site. So I'm looking for all you beautiful coaches to join us on that platform so that clients can find you.
So I'm gonna just say a little bit about this because, give you a little peek behind the window. So what Marianne and I are working on is making sure that we have over 2,500 members of Ladies Power Lunch, but we have no database of people who actually want us to put our butterfly stamp on them to be able to recommend them to other people. And so what we're putting together is an opportunity for us to be able to do that. So keep watching the feed. Coming in January, we're going to be rolling that one out. Audra, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
I sure can. I am Audra Micah. I run The Right Fit. I am a college search and career search coach. So I take the stress out of both of those searches and I help you get your kid off your couch is what I do.
Oh, I love that.
My demographic is folks who are anywhere from 15 to 30. So my career search is really focused on the career development of people launching a life after college. And today is Finance Friday, so I'm in my little scrubby clothes, and I'm thrilled to be here. I've been following Deborah since I met her on Annie Garland's Master Speaker Series.
Excellent. And Annie is one of our Ladies Power Lunch speakers, so it is no surprise that she would also have excellent people on her shows. Naomi, welcome. Please tell us who you are and what you do. You are muted, Naomi.
I thought I see technology. I'm Naomi Rafalowitz. I'm a certified personal life transition coach. I help women who don't want to just move through the personal life transition, but really want to move through and create with alignment. We really start with an intense self-discovery exercise that helps you figure out your purpose, your passion, your value. And then I'm sort of the guide on the side, helping you move to the place you want to be.
We all need a guide on the side. Thank you, Naomi. Sherry, welcome. So good to see you. Oh my goodness. Tell us, who are you? What do you do?
Well, SherryDaniels.com. I do what is essentially acupuncture for the spirit. I clear stressed energy in both people and spaces. This works for both individuals and businesses, especially business spaces. And I also practice a form of ancient Chinese medicine that can get you in touch with your understanding of your inner design and help you in understanding how you interact with others as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Barb, are you all the way in Canada right now, Barb?
I am, yes.
Awesome. Welcome.
Yeah.
So happy to have
Thank
you.
you.
Can you just share with everybody who you are and what it is that you do?
Sure. I specialize in supporting the founders of businesses that are in expansion stage growth and help them determine how to manage the strategies and plans that they have to put in place to be able to offload the stuff they've been doing all alone and get their teams in place and the cultures working.
Excellent. That's very, very important for all of us. So I want to say hi to everybody who's joined us over on our Facebook group. If you guys over there want to just say hi so we can know who you are, and if you want to comment, if you have questions, feel free to drop it in the chat because, guys, guess who we have with us today? We have Deborah Daniel, and she is amazing when it comes to helping us to navigate our finances and to help us to keep more of that money in our pockets. So Deborah, welcome. Please share with everybody who you are and what it is that you do in the world.
Awesome. Great. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for asking me. But for those of you that are new to me, I am Deborah Daniel. I call myself a serial entrepreneur. I've been doing this entrepreneurial journey for nearly 30 years. I mean, we're coming fast approaching 30 years. The one constant of all the businesses that I've owned, probably about 10 of them, both by myself or with partners, is I'm the founder and CEO of Charter Accounting and Tax Service, which is the keep more money part of my mission, because I really am so much more than just a bean counter. Because I firmly believe that life isn't about money, but business is. And usually I'm speaking to business owners. I mean, I do have a lot of individuals that I work with as well, but the real secret sauce of what I can help people with involves having some kind of some kind of income that isn't wage income, because the reality is our tax system is not really skewed towards the employee. I mean, the employee pays literally the highest amount of tax, other than self-employed who don't have themselves set up right. They're actually paying more. So they're paying everything that an employee is paying, plus they're paying both the employer and the employee side of the Social Security or self-employment tax. So that's really kind of what I'm all about. Again, making more, keeping more, and growing more. I mean, not the make more part is if you're not bringing in enough revenue. I'm kind of like a profit whisperer. I can help you figure out how to price your things differently, structure them differently, sell more to the people that you're already selling to, and or sell more frequently to them. You know, I'm great at helping them with strategies of how to find more customers, which I find most women that I know spend a ton of their time doing that, which is great. But the reality is, if pre-COVID we were saying it was 6 to 8 touches to make a sale, now they're saying it's maybe 10 to 12 touches. If all you're doing is meeting new people, you've got a long pipeline before you're seeing sales. So what you really need to do, and what I'm seeing people be super successful at right now, is looking inward at the contacts that you already have. Because I firmly believe once a buyer, always a buyer, right? And so once they've bought from you, they're more likely to buy from you again. So what can you sell more that you already are doing? What can you sell differently? What can you sell to them more frequently? I think is really where we as business women should be focusing our time as far as the bringing more in. Then there's a lot of strategies, and I actually am doing a webinar today at 2 o'clock that's not too late. I mean, after this, that's not too late for people to jump in on, where we actually have a couple weeks left to do some serious planning that will enable you to keep more of that money that you've made. Because the reality is, if you, whether it's me or, you know, H&R Block, God forbid, or TurboTax or whatever, if you're not looking at this until February, March, April of next year, it's too late to do most of the things for 2020. I mean, literally, you really should be planning 2021 right now. We're just doing a little bit of like damage control here at the end to see if we can salvage something of 2020 with 2 weeks left, right? But you really need to be, I mean, you're almost in the different year at this point. I mean, it's too late to worry about in February. I mean, the things I'm going to tell people about today, a few you can do after January 1st, but we have to get busy today. So that's the keep more. And then I mean, this is my overarching women's wealth secret, is that owning a business or having some kind of side gig, some kind of revenue stream that isn't to hours for dollars, is the absolute best way to create wealth in your life. I mean, and wealth, not just for you and your family, but for your community and leaving a legacy. So if you're not seeing all 3 of those pieces or any one of those pieces, those are the things that I help people with.
Awesome. Well, that's very, very comprehensive. So let's dive right in. Let's talk about, you know, the things that we should be doing before the year end. What are those things?
Well, I mean, for one thing, you need to be you need to have your books together. If you're just now opening up your January bank statement, you are in trouble. We don't know where I mean, it's too late. And that's a really funny thing. I think this year especially, I mean, COVID, I mean, of the 28 years I've owned the firm, this is absolutely the weirdest year ever. Nobody is doing what they thought they would be doing at this time last year. I mean, a lot of my clients are actually making as much or more money. They're just doing it differently, right? And I think that's my new phrase is called money, wealth, profit evolution. I don't like the word pivot. Everybody's like, I'm pivoting. I really feel like this is an evolution, because if it's not COVID, it's 2008 financial crisis, or it's the 2001 tech bubble, or it's 9/11, or when I owned my business back in Atlanta in 1996, when the Olympics came, and you couldn't even buy an employee. I mean, nobody wanted to do anything besides work for the Olympics. I mean, we could not find any employees. I mean, so you've got to really be able to move, you know, you've got to be able to, I think, evolve. I mean, pivot, I don't like that word. It's just being thrown around like crazy. But so what we need to be doing is really focusing on those kind of things. To me, this year, the P in CPA, really certified public accountant, I feel has stood for psychology, because people's money issues are like literally bubbling up in a way I have not seen in 3 decades of working with people's money. Because the reality is, it was really scary back when COVID first started and everybody's accounts, you know, tanked. I mean, now they're, you know, they're coming back, but the reality is it wasn't COVID. It's the fact that I think it really caught people and made them really realize how little they had their act together to begin with, right? Because if it's not COVID, it's going to be something else. Now, I will tell you, some of my advice that I've given to people has changed a little bit because of COVID, because you used to say 3 to 6 months of emergency. Well, some people, I mean, we're fast approaching 9 months that they, you know, that maybe they weren't able, if they weren't able to evolve their revenue stream, that they're not making money. So maybe looking at how much we keep to the side as an emergency fund needs to be revisited, because we just don't know, I mean, what's going to happen again. But before the end of the year, there's a lot of things you can do. You can bunch some of your deductions together. That's something I'm going to talk about on the webinar, because now with the 2018, was it 2018? The last tax law that we had, the really comprehensive one that passed 2 years ago, the standard deduction went really up quite a bit. So now those itemized deductions maybe aren't worth quite as much, but there is a strategy in that. So if you are fairly charitable and you're close to being at the difference between the standard and the itemized deduction, you may want to give extra this year. Like, instead of, you know, go ahead and make what you were going to do for 2021, go ahead and put that into 2020, so that with those 2 years of contribution kind of bump you up over the standard deduction, and the next year just take the standard deduction, right? You could do the same thing with your medical expenses if you can. Like, if you have the choice of paying for a procedure this year or next year, kind of bunching those deductions together. Sometimes it's about timing. Now, one thing that I do for clients, because in Georgia, the standard deduction is pretty small, and that's true for a lot of states as well. So we look comprehensively at every single return to see, does it make sense to standard or itemize? And sometimes, even though, like for married filing jointly, and I think it was 24,000, right around 24,000 this year for standard deduction, we'll calculate the return by itemizing in standard. And sometimes when the federal itemized deductions are like 22,000, so close to that amount, you're like, well, Deborah, why didn't you take the standard deduction for me? Because I just you may have lost $500 and paid an extra $500 in federal, but by taking that lower than federal standard deduction, it's so much better for Georgia that we just saved you, you know, $1,400. So, I mean, you know, I'm glad to let you pay the extra $900 if you want to, but I mean, if that's the way you want to play it, you probably should just be doing TurboTax yourself, right? So there is some strategy in bunching those deductions together, right? Unfortunately, there's not a lot of other things that people that are just W-2 people, we can really help them with. I mean, as another group that can be making some strategic moves right now are our retirees, because you could be deciding, you know, what do I want to take from my retirement account, if, you know, and how much should I take? Is that going to affect my Social Security? Which type of account? Because if you've got different types of accounts, it matters which ones you're taking it out of. But the real secret sauce is our business owners. I mean, there are a lot of opportunities to do things between now and the end of the year. I mean, if you need a new computer, if you need new, I mean, you know, I've had to buy a lot of new equipment this year for all this Zooming. I mean, I've got a light. I mean, at first I used to be really dark in all my pictures, so I bought a ring light, and I bought, you know, a green screen. I mean, if you've got things that you need to buy, I would say go ahead and buy them before the end of the year. I don't ever like to see someone buy something just to save the taxes, because I mean, the reality is, even if you're paying 35 cents in tax, why spend $1 to save 35 cents for something that you don't need? I mean, I call that, don't let the tax tail wag the dog. I mean,
So
always
it should be something you need.
always make the right financial decision first, and then layer on what is the best tax strategy, right? I talk to clients about investments from that perspective. They're like, should I sell this? Should I not sell this? Should I take the losses? Because that's something that individuals actually, I misspoke myself, individuals that maybe still do have a job but have investments in your, Merrill Lynch account or Schwab account or Fidelity account or whatever non-retirement account. Now is the time to look and see if there are certain things that you might want to sell before the end of the year and do what they call harvesting the tax losses. So if you need a loss this year and it's a stock that's going to, again, I don't sell just because there's a loss and I want to put a loss on my tax return. But, we've got some old telecom stocks. My husband used to be in the telecom industry that we kind of held on longer than we should have because we kind of had a little bit of emotional attachment to them, which of course you should not have emotional attachment to any of your investments really, other than your own personal business. I do have an emotional attachment to my personal business. But so there's a few things there that every year we're kind of like, should we sell that one or should we not? Again, not because of the tax write-off, but because it doesn't make sense financially, but now's the time to be looking at that if there are any that should be in there. And deciding if you want to make retirement contributions. I love Roth accounts. The problem is most people, at least I live in the suburbs of Atlanta, and it's kind of, 2 income earners, and most people are making pretty good money because it costs that much to live here. But most people can't qualify for a Roth contribution because those phase out, but there's no income limitation on Roth conversions. And so every year it's kind of a good time to look and see, where, 2020 may be an awesome year. Maybe your income is really down because you or your spouse lost, one of your incomes. So instead of making $300,000 this year, you're only making $100,000 this year, and you're in a lower tax bracket. This may be a year to look at some of your retirement accounts and converting them to a Roth. Because just a real quick explanation of why Roth versus regular Roth IRAs, you don't get a tax benefit when you make the contribution. Or if you have it in a retirement account and you want to convert it to a Roth, you have to pay the tax on it today. But the beauty of a Roth is say I had a $100,000 account and I'm 40 years old, I wish, but if I was 40 years old and I still had a long time until I was going to retire, that 100 could grow to be 400,000 and I'll never pay tax on it again, right? So a regular IRA, when you're working for your company or you're getting a SEP in your business or whatever, you're getting a tax deduction today. So say I were to put $40,000 into a SEP IRA, I would save that money today. But if that $40,000 grows to be $500,000 by the time I retire, I'm going to pay tax on all of that $500,000. You see the lifetime cost of that is so much more than the amount that you're saving today. So always looking at the end of the year, does it make sense for me to try to get some of those dollars from tax today to tax-free later kind of thing. So
I love
that's
all
sparking
of
more questions than it's actually answering. I don't know.
But this is great stuff, because the thing about it is what this really brings to mind for all of us as business owners is that we do need to have a strategy, and we do need to have somebody in our corner to point us in the right direction. Just having somebody to do our books or file some taxes is not enough when you are an entrepreneur. That is what is coming out of this conversation for me.
Well, I think it comes down to, and when I met Audra, I was speaking particularly to this subject, the difference between tax planning and tax preparation, right? Tax preparation is basically you or someone else or a tax preparer putting historical information onto a piece of paper. We'll be doing that next year, looking back at 2020. And that's valuable, that's compliance. Even though our tax system is voluntary, theoretically, we all volunteer every year and do it. But that's pretty historical looking. It's compliance. We have to do it, just like we have to go get our car tag every year, just like we have to, certain things, we have to pay our property taxes every year or whatever. Planning is, just like in any part of our business, is actually looking at what our options are and making decisions, informed decisions before it's too late, right? I look at it from the same perspective. If I was taking off for California from Georgia, I'm sure if I started heading west, I would get there, right? But eventually, but if I started heading west and I actually had a map and a plan of what I was going to do, and if I happened to get to Colorado and the road was closed, I would have options of where I would go. I'm going to get there a lot faster versus, just taking off and hoping that I'm going to get there. That's the way, unfortunately, I see, and like I said, 3 decades and nearly 1,000, recurring clients. That's how most people run their finances. I mean, and their businesses. And it's really, it's a by the seat of their pants kind of thing. I mean, and it works. I mean, you could do it, but the super successful have a system of planning, reviewing, making course corrections. I mean, even if you were a planner, you probably need to be making course corrections because nothing happened in 2020 the way we expected it to.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would like for you to, because we're going to be running low on time. I would like for you to give us some tips, just really things that if we take nothing else away from your talk today, that we need to focus on these things.
Well, I love, I mean, one, I think everybody needs to have a money plan. I don't like the word budget. I feel like that's very restrictive, and that's telling me what I can and cannot do, right? I mean, you can't do this or whatever. So everybody needs to have a money plan. So if you don't do anything else other than, look at what's happened so far in 2020 and come up with what your game plan is for 2021. I also like people to have a money date at least once a month. I think if you're married, you should do it with your spouse, or if you're in a relationship, you should do it with your partner or whatever. But really, it's really reviewing it, opening up all those statements, or in our case, most of them come to our email. And so, getting all the emails together or whatever. But really at least reviewing it. I mean, it's kind of like if you don't pay attention to your weight and you don't look at it all year long, you could easily gain 10 or 15 pounds because you're not paying attention to it. But if you step on the scale every day and you see that, oh, I'm up a pound, maybe I better not, have that extra piece of cheesecake tonight, you could kind of bring it back to center, right? But if you're not checking it on a regular basis, it's very easy to get out of control. And like, wait, where did that 15 pounds come from? Thanksgiving, Halloween, and Easter, I guess. But but you see what I'm saying? So that to me is just changing your habits, is I think the key takeaway for anyone, really, because you can't do the things that I tell people to do if you don't have any idea what's going on.
Yep, you have to actually look at the numbers. You have to. And I know for some of us that can be a little bit on the scary side of things. Some of us are hesitant. Some of us defer the financial decisions in our lives to our partners. I know there was a time in my life when I did that because my husband's an accountant. So I'm like, oh yeah, you know about money, you do that thing. And I had a coach who in her previous life, before she was a business coach, she was an accountant. And that was one of the best things that ever happened to me because she actually made spreadsheets and sat with me on Zoom, and we went through every single line item. And now I'm happy to look at my money because I want to see what's happening and what am I doing and that sort of thing. So it makes a difference.
Whole energy. I mean, it's like anything else where you give attention is what it expands, right? I mean,
yes,
so if
ma'am.
you ever are looking at it, what makes you think it's going to automatically just appear, right? I mean, you've got to spend some time taking a look at it. And it's funny that you say that about the money and people deferring, because I have seen an evolution in almost 30 years. I mean, I've been doing this since the early 90s. And we have seen a flip where the women are making, a lot of times are the primary breadwinner in the family. And there are so many single parent families, mostly women, that even with us being the primary breadwinner, most women still defer to their partner on financial decisions. The funny thing is, though, most women are the ones that are making the buying decisions for the family, yet they're deferring the like investments and the big decisions to their partner.
Yeah, and when we are in a partnership, it should be a bit more of give and take in that case.
It is, but you've got to really watch out because people do have a money personality. And if you're not the same personality as your partner, it can be kind of stressful to have those conversations. I mean, because, I see so often, how they say opposites attract in relationships. I think money types opposites attract as well. I mean, you often see there's a saver and a spender in the couple, and that could be a little bit of a conflict sometimes, and if you don't get on the same page of what the money plan really is.
That's so true. And if you look at statistics, one of the number one reasons for couples splitting up is financial. So that's something to definitely look
I think
out
in like
for.
96 out of 100 situations, that's what the original problem was money.
Yes. So that is super interesting, and yet another reason for us to be keeping an eye on our money. So, Deborah, I know all the things that you've shared with us today have been so valuable, and people want to know, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, I'm on all the social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, everything is Deborah, either Deborah D CPA or Deborah Daniel CPA. And so you can follow me there. I have, my website is charteraccounting.com, which is CHARTER and the whole word accounting.com. I'm on YouTube. I've got a lot of money tips on YouTube that are awesome out there. And if anybody wants to attend the webinar that I'm doing at 2:00 today, I'll drop that in the link after we get off. I mean, I do a lot of complimentary education for my clients or for people that are in my world, because I do feel like when you get to a certain level of knowledge, that part of your give back is just to let people know, about the things that you know about. Obviously I don't let every single client that comes to me work with me for free, but my general stuff that I know off the top of my head, like these deductions and stuff, I love sharing that information. I want to know about other topics that I'm not an expert in. I consume, health information from other people because that's not something that I'm an expert at. And so I try to be that resource on the money side.
Excellent. So, Deborah, I'm going to take advantage of your being here today, and it's Free Gift Friday, so I'm actually going to give you away to one of our listeners today. Exciting. So basically, I'm going to give somebody who has taken the time out to tune into this, who has exhibited that they are interested in what you have to offer and they're interested in what you have to say. I'm going to gift them with a 20-minute consultation with you. Okay. So I would like for you to please choose a number between 1 and 10.
3 is my favorite number.
And so our winner today is Barb. So Barb, I'm going to post in our Facebook group, and you'll have an opportunity to be in touch with Deborah, and you guys can talk about the money. I'm really, really looking forward to having you back on the show.
Anytime.
It's always such a pleasure to talk to you. And I swear to you, people often think that talking to accountants is boring. And if they ever think that, you're the person that I need to invite them to. I have so many accountants in my life. My husband's an accountant. Like almost everybody around me are accountants or engineers, one of those two things. So
I know I have an engineer husband, but I think the difference to me, why I think I'm a little different than other accountants, is I really am an entrepreneur who happens to sell accounting professional services, right? I always come at it from the entrepreneurship slant first. I am a business owner, just like all my clients are business owners. And I think that because you're walking the walk with them, that changes the dynamic a little bit.
Absolutely. And we have some really nice comments here for you. Love the distinction between tax planning versus tax preparing. I love that too. Monica's joining us all the way from Hawaii, and she says, mahalo for sharing this with us. Aloha and much success to you. I want to be happy looking at my money. And
exactly.
we just have so many great comments here in the chat today. So I would invite you to go on over to our Facebook group and just, respond to them and create some community with them, because I want them to love you as much as I do. Thank you so much, Deborah. It's been an absolute pleasure and joy to have you on the show. Thank you, everybody who joined us today, and I'll see you all next time on the Ladies Power Lunch Show. Goodbye.
Thank you, ladies.